Welcome to Discover Desoto, a podcast brought to you by the Patterson Foundation. In this podcast, you'll hear stories from all corners of DeSoto County through the lens of DeSoto County Ahead, from residents to community leaders and everyone in between. Join us as we discover DeSoto, one story at a time. Hi, and welcome to Discover Desoto, a Beyond the Blog podcast brought to you by the Patterson Foundation. I'm Alicia Exantus, consultant with the Patterson Foundation and your host today. Joining me is Maribel Martinez, consultant with the Patterson Foundation, where she works with TPF's initiative, Digital Access for All, focusing especially on the Digital Navigator Program, including a new cohort focused on DeSoto County. Maribel, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Alicia. So glad to be here.
We're so glad to have you here with us. Maribel, although you don't live in DeSoto County, I know you do work there through TPF and you've visited numerous times. So please tell me what makes DeSoto unique in the world of digital access and inclusivity, especially given that it's a rural place.
You know, I started going to DeSoto, 3 years ago, and I'll never forget my first ride through there because a tumbleweed crossed the road and the Burger King was boarded up. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's happening in DeSoto County? But fast forward to now, things are really different. So I know that the Patterson Foundation has made significant investments in moving DeSoto forward, hence why we're here talking about DeSoto today. But from the perspective of broadband and all things technology, things have changed so much, but there's still a long way to go. So we know that more people are adopting broadband technologies. We know that more people either have or want to get computers and they're curious about how to use them, so acquiring those digital skills. But in terms of inclusivity, what I love about DeSoto and working in DeSoto is the way that neighbors reach neighbors in ways that organizations can't. And that's the kind of stuff that I love to dig into, because while I have strong partnerships with the foundation and obviously in other ways through the partners that work on the ground, I also get to meet the people and work one-to-one with them.
I can tell you've worked in that community with that quote you have right there. That's great to hear. And I can't wait to hear more about specifically that digital side and your expertise. So we're going to go ahead and dive in here. For our audience to understand some additional context, I did want to share some numbers from the American Community Survey. In 2023, 81.8% of households had access to broadband internet, which means that 19% did not. And that was 2 years ago. So we know things have changed. Maribel, is it enough for someone to have broadband internet, especially if it's not affordable or it's not high speed?
So first, let's talk about the difference between having access and actually having a subscription.
Okay.
So you can say that one has access if the home has the ability to acquire an internet subscription. So for example, my home has either the cables or the fiber optic cable or whatever connection is necessary in order for me to acquire it. But then the whole other piece is whether I'm able to afford it. Mm-hmm. And so the affordability factor is huge, because even though an internet service provider will, come on in and light up the neighborhood, are they able to subscribe to what the ISP is offering? Is it too expensive? And if it is, what's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen is you won't have that adoption piece. And so we're right back where we started when the Burger King was boarded up and the tumbleweed crossed the road.
Okay.
So we really need these things to happen together. We need for the infrastructure to come into place, but we also need for the subscription plans to be affordable for the people in DeSoto and really for anyone. So we know that DeSoto is moving forward, but we also know that there are significant socioeconomic gaps in that county. And so making the internet affordable, making those computers affordable and accessible are key. And then, of course, the last mile. What good is it to light up a house and to give someone a computer if they don't know how to use it in ways that are relevant to them?
Now you say that. You say light up. I've spoken with you before. You say light up a house. Can you tell me more? What do you mean when you say light up a house?
So that means that internet service provider is going to come in and either, as you can see driving through town in DeSoto, laying down the conduit so that the broadband signal or the communications pathway is laid so that those houses are able to receive broadband. Now, in some areas outside of Arcadia, so in the corners of the county, that's going to look a little different because it's not possible in some areas, and in many areas across the country, this is not just unique to DeSoto, you can't lay down fiber optic cable for different reasons because the terrain is challenging. And so in that case, you have low Earth orbit, LEO, you have satellite technologies. Those have traditionally been expensive, but really it's just what is the best, most affordable way to get a neighborhood connected to affordable broadband.
Okay, we know there is this misconception that everyone has internet.
No.
So you've seen it. You've worked with individuals. I would love to hear more about if someone does not have access to internet, how does that impact their work, how they socialize, how they learn, etc. Fill me in. What does that look like?
The digital divide is actually widening. And we were getting really close to making some great headway when the federal government stepped in and for the first time made significant investments in things like grants for the states and for local communities to do broadband adoption work. But then also during the Affordable Connectivity Program, making the internet itself more affordable. Those things have gone away and have changed in significant ways. However, the digital inclusion movement, the digital equity movement, has a rear view track record going back at least 10 years. So we've been able to do this work with community partnerships. So folks, champions like the Patterson Foundation, made significant investments, right, and moved the issue forward, I think, as a critical issue of importance. Now, what I also want to say is that broadband technologies, they're changing, and what we do with broadband is changing. And so while we were able to sort of see how we were closing that gap maybe 2-3 years ago, now, huge chasm again. Why? Because of advent technologies like AI. So with generative AI coming into play, the digital divide is actually increasing at exponential speeds. And so I personally believe that there will always be a need for digital skills training just because so many people experience the internet and technologies in specific, I think, situational ways. So a lot of what I know is contextual. A lot of what you know is contextual too. So if you have a job now and they ask you that you need to learn X, Y, and Z software programs and this type of app and you know to do this with this type of technology, then that's what you're going to be able to do because you need to do that to survive at work. But maybe beyond that, you just don't have the curiosity or the time or the means or the money to be able to invest in just learning and growing with your digital skills. And that's where we are. But because AI is everywhere now, it's really causing a huge rift between the haves and the have-nots, right? People who just don't have the time or the money to increase those skills.
I could see that. We often talk about how technology is so fast. Everything's growing so quickly, but I didn't think about how the digital divide is also, of course, that's going to get wider if technology is moving so quickly. That is very interesting. It's actually a perfect segue into talking a little bit about TPF's initiative DA4A, also known as Digital Access for All. Digital Access for All is an initiative that explores the efforts of multiple sectors working to enhance access to technology that connects people in ways that foster inclusion and well-being. It focuses on 3 essential elements: connectivity, devices, and the skills and support that you just spoke about. As you shared, digital access is important for individuals, families, communities to make sure that they can engage in areas like education, employment, health, financial services, or even government services. One promising innovation to address the challenge of people lacking access to digital connections or devices is digital navigation. Digital navigators connect community members with groups and programs to provide low-cost home internet service, an affordable computing device, and digital skills training based on their specific needs. Through the Digital Navigator Program, part of the DA4A initiative, TPF trains local organizations to connect asset-limited families and individuals with opportunities to obtain broadband connectivity, devices, skills, and support. TPF has done several cohorts already. I smiled the second I said digital navigators because I know how special these individuals are to their community. I've seen it firsthand. So what I'd love to hear from you, Maribel, I know there's been a first, second, and third cohort. Before we dive into the special cohort 4, DN4. I would like to hear a little bit about those first 3 programs and how they evolved, how they went, a little takeaway from those.
Yeah, initially the initiative started as a pilot program because the Patterson Foundation recognized the community's vast need for connectivity devices and digital skills and support. And so that first cohort was launched by 3 brave organizations who raised their hand and said, yes, I understand that this is an issue in my community, but moreover, I know that this is an issue with the people that we serve, and that if we participate in this program, I think it's going to, A, help us reach our community in ways that are way better than what we're doing now, and then B, it's going to help us to improve how we serve people, because these businesses, these organizations, all nonprofits, understood that at the very foundation of it all is digital tools. If these folks that we're trying to serve can't engage with technology, they can't fill out an application online, they can't use applications, for example, to access things like education funding, fill out a FAFSA, and so much more, then they're at a tremendous disadvantage. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to cohort 2 and cohort 3, we continue to work with nonprofits in the area, and it's just been an incredible experience enabling community members to have these skills, to understand how to connect people to affordable broadband and devices. But more importantly, and I can't emphasize this enough, it's this ability to find people who are tech curious and tech savvy. So I'm not interested in finding community members who already know everything there is to know, because guess what? No one on the planet knows everything there is to know about technology. Mm-hmm. So there's always a jumping off point. I just want to find community members who are curious about technology and really want to grow as individuals, right? Okay. To be able to acquire those skills. So now looking ahead to DN4, to the 4th cohort of the Digital Navigator Program, I'm so proud of this. We are going to be working with the community in very different ways. So yes, we are still looking for organizations to partner with, mm-hmm. to find staff who are willing to train as digital navigators. So they'll have dual roles. They'll still have their 9 to 5, the role that they were hired to do at the organization, and then they'll be cross-trained as digital navigators. So we will layer on the skills of digital navigation onto their jobs. And usually these are folks who are frontline workers or have case management experience, things of that nature. But for the first time, we're also looking to involve the community at large in DeSoto in really important ways that don't necessarily have to do with the gatekeeper organization that is, a nonprofit, for example. So if I can go through the 4 levels of support, I would love to.
Before you do, I want to say that DeSoto County, I'm going to weave through 2 initiatives here, that DeSoto County Ahead initiative, as well as Digital Access for All, DA4A. When we had our community conversations 2 years ago, we had individuals come up to us and say, we are so concerned about digital access, and we're so concerned about technology in general. It was actually one of the 8 themes listed behind me here. So hearing that, I heard that from community members, then hearing you say you're going in, not only are you going in, it's going to be unique because you're not going to just stop at organizations. You're going to go into the community, which were voices that we heard. That sounds like a recipe for success. I mean, you've got the people saying, here's our aspirations, here's what we really want to see in our community. And you're like, okay, let's get to work.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we get to work? What makes it you told me what made it unique, but how do we get to work? You said there's 4 levels. Let's talk about them.
4 levels of participation. So the first one we've already addressed, and that's the cross-trained digital navigator. Okay. Folks who work in organizations that are willing to get trained. So they'll be based at an organization and they'll work in digital navigation as it's appropriate.
Okay.
The second way to get involved with the Digital Navigator Program in DeSoto is just to be a community member who's interested in becoming trained. So individual, independent community members who will volunteer to get trained for free, always for free, and then to work in the communities. But we're going to take a step further because we don't want to train individuals and then just kind of throw them out there and go, okay, do the great work of digital navigation and not provide them any resources. Plus, that's just not the way the Patterson Foundation works, right? Because that support is essential to be able to innovate, right? So once we get those individuals trained, that we'll then be able to connect them to other resources in the area. So the 3rd level of support is the in-kind organization. that's an organization that's not necessarily ready to stand up a Digital Navigator program in-house, but they believe in the mission and the cause so much that they want to help us with things like meeting spaces, having a digital navigator come in and maybe sit at a desk or maybe work alongside their staff, make use of their computer room for training and other in-kind services. So that is the third level of support. So you can imagine that individual digital navigator is going to be able to go and have a place to be, and more importantly for the community to go meet them. And then the fourth level of support is the connector organization. So for the first time, we're also working with organizations who, like the in-kinds, can't stand up a digital navigator program or aren't ready to at this time, but they believe in the mission and they want to raise it as an issue of critical importance in the community. So they're going to host our flyers, post our flyers, they're going to post about social media and repost and like what we post, and they're going to serve as a connector. So if somebody comes into the organization and says, I'm having trouble finding a job, they can ask a simple question like, well, are you connected to the internet? Do you have a computer? Or, is that the issue? Do you know how to use it? Oh, well, we know a digital navigator. She's here every Friday from 3 to 5. So that connection is going to be vital to spreading that word throughout DeSoto. And as you know, DeSoto is that special place where people actually have that word of mouth that spreads so easily. So we're really, really excited about how all these 4 levels are going to come together simultaneously to just sort of fan out into the community and catch fire, hopefully.
Oh, I believe it can catch fire. That's exactly what can happen. I have no doubt it will happen. What if someone listening, whether they're a community member or an organization that wants to be a different level than that first spot that you talked about, wants to get involved? How can they get involved? What should they do? Should they reach out to you? You tell me.
They can certainly reach out to me.
Okay.
The email is mmartineztpf@gmail.com. They can reach out to our initiative lead, Sherry Courier, Courier at the pattersonfoundation.org. But they can also check out what's happening with the Digital Access for All LinkedIn group. And that is really a great repository for all things around the Digital Navigator program and Digital Access for All for that matter. So that's where we're going to talk about the implementation. That's where we're going to talk about who your contact points are, maybe some information sessions. We are desperately searching.
Why? Tell me more. Why are you desperately searching? Why is there the need? Is that great for Spanish?
Huge need.
Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, huge need. So we know that even here in Sarasota County, we have a need for Spanish speakers to also become digital navigators. There's an immediate need for them. And so we are working with organizations that we have worked with in the past to find community members who are caring and who are passionate about broadband, but also who speak Spanish. And so want to train as digital navigators, and they can get started right away. And we're really excited to hopefully find caring folks to serve as digital navigators.
We will make sure to drop the QR code here on the screen for anyone who'd like to join that group on LinkedIn. But I want to go back to your Spanish-speaking digital navigators. What we say here at the Patterson Foundation is change happens at the speed of trust. I'm going to talk about my personal family. I have a parent who she's so nervous to even ask for help in regards to anything technology related. You have to be vulnerable and you have to be willing to say you don't understand or don't know something. And so I really think having someone who speaks the same language as you, where you can connect in some way, I would assume that then makes your relationship better as a digital navigator with the person you're working with.
Change totally happens at the speed of trust.
Yeah.
And I have seen where digital navigator relationships really grow when there is that similarity, right? When you speak my language, when you understand, maybe based on life experiences, that we've shared the same past experiences, and that's great. We don't try to limit how digital navigators engage with the community when there is a language barrier. So for example, we will leverage technology. We will leverage translation tools to help people talk to community members when there's a need, because we don't want that to be a barrier, right? But as you said, that trust is huge. And the idea of digital navigation, by the way, is not a one and done. This is a relationship that hopefully grows with time and with that trust element. So if you have someone with whom you develop trust, affinity, you like that person. I mean, let's be honest. We like to do business with people we like, right? And so when you find someone who's helped you, who you feel has really kind of put you on the right path, let's say, you're going to go back to that person.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go back to that person. And so when that person also speaks your language, I think that's going to exponentially change the way that that relationship kind of develops and unfolds. So yes, the Spanish-speaking population is growing in Sarasota County as it is across the Suncoast.
Mm-hmm.
I can see a need where soon we're going to be talking about Haitian Creole-speaking digital navigators because that population is growing. But I just want to reiterate again, if you speak Spanish and you have a passion for understanding that without technology, you really can't do anything nowadays, then we would love to talk with you.
And I believe the LinkedIn group also has a month calendar because it's Digital Inclusion Month. Okay, not week, month.
Yes.
Tell me more.
It is Suncoast Digital Inclusion Month on the Suncoast.
Okay.
So this is a tradition that was started by the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. They only celebrate a week. It actually expired last week. But,
Okay.
we like to do things big on the Suncoast. So we decided to commit a whole month to digital
Wonderful.
inclusion activities. So if you'll look online, you will see that there are 31 days of exciting activities happening, including a device drive that's going on right now through the end of January. We are absolutely looking for more agencies to work with in DeSoto on digital navigation. But then you have things like these podcasts and the replays of our Suncoast Digital Connect web series also there, but also just other exciting content as well. So yes, 30 days of Suncoast, 31 days of Suncoast Digital Inclusion Month.
Hearing you talk, I know having a device is one of the most important parts, if not the most important part. You briefly mentioned the device drive, but I'd like to go into a little more detail. I know it does go through January 31st. I know there's different drop-off locations. And then I know we're partnered with STUG, Sarasota Technology Users Group, and all of those donations will be provided to them. And then they refurbish them and give them out to citizens for free who are in need of technology or a device that's been donated?
All of that is true.
Okay, great.
So the STUG group has been working with us for quite some time. We have worked directly with them and the Digital Navigator Program to strengthen that relationship. So our digital navigators get priority access to devices when they have a client who needs a computer, and they provide not so much desktops anymore, but they do kick out some desktops, but mostly laptops and tablets. But yeah, it's a straight path to adopting your first computer. So yes, I want to say that for some people, in the past, it's been where I'm going to get them, internet connection first, and then I'm going to get a computer, and then I'm going to teach them how to use it. But to be honest with you, that sweet spot of digital navigation is really understanding, what my person needs. So as you mentioned, being vulnerable, asking for help, not always easy. So we train digital navigators to really be savvy about the types of questions to ask, to get people talking about whether they have a broadband connection at home, whether they have their own device. Especially with parents who have children, they might have gotten a device through school, for example, but then that device gets recalled in the summer and the family is computerless for 3 months. So all these situations come to light. But yeah, really important for people to have their own devices, and through STUG's generosity and ingenuity and the partnership with the foundation, we're able to do that.
Okay, great. So all that information on the LinkedIn group. Again, we'll be sure to show that QR code here. Maribel, this is Discover Desoto, so I can't let you leave without highlighting a special hidden gem, a place to shop, a local dining spot, or even a unique outdoor activity. What's something everyone should be sure to discover when they're in DeSoto?
Well, first I'm going to say a big shout out to Linda over there at the DeSoto Library, because that's my first stop in DeSoto every single time I'm there. That will be the heart of the Digital Navigator Program come this time. But
Perfect location to be the heart of that
totally.
program. Linda is amazing. Big shout out to Linda. And yeah, that's great. I love hearing that.
But my hidden gem is absolutely hands down the Yellow Deli.
Okay.
So every time I'm in town, I always stop at the Yellow Deli for breakfast and or lunch. Sometimes I'm there all day. It's a great place to have my meetings. It's quiet. They have really nice quality food, and they're just lovely, lovely people. And then off to the side, you have your little lotions and your balms and all that good stuff. It's a wholesome place. I love the lighting, and they're just so nice to people who want to go and work and have their meetings there. So yes, the Yellow Deli right there in the heart of town next to the train station. You can't miss it. It's definitely something that I love to do.
Okay, I'll be sure to stop by next time. I've actually never been, so I will add that to my list of my Discover Desoto spots.
Excellent.
Maribel, thank you so much for joining me today. It was an absolute pleasure having you here with us. Thank you for all you do in not just DeSoto County, but our 4-county region and even beyond, I'm sure, to even different states. Everywhere. You are amazing. Anyone wanting to learn more about DA4A, our initiative Digital Access for All, can contact Sherry Corrier, the initiative lead. And listeners, to learn more about how the Patterson Foundation is strengthening efforts to collectively create a stronger, more resilient community, visit DeSotoCountyAhead.net or thepattersonfoundation.org. To subscribe to our monthly DeSoto Digest newsletter, where we share these monthly podcasts and news from DeSoto County residents, scan the QR code on your screen. Well, tune in next time for more Discover DeSoto. Bye-bye.
Together, we can create a DeSoto where opportunity, pride, and connection thrive.